Let's roll. So I started this YouTube channel to help you at your worst, to help you to get to your best so that you can amaze yourself. Today, I'm speaking with the inspiring Jillian Best about inspiration. Jillian has an incredible story of overcoming incredible odds from receiving a liver transplant all the way to swimming across Lake Ontario. Not only that, I think you've raised like 200,000. What are you at now?
We're at like $220,000 that we've donated 150 and we're gonna make another $70,000 donation.
That is wild. So $220,000 raised for to reduce organ transplant wait times for a foundation that you started, correct? Along with
That,
other people, I'm guessing,
that's correct.
called the Move for Life Foundation. And I'm rocking some of her swag right now, which is
Yeah.
Inspire. So if you like that shirt, you can go to her website and you can get some sweet swag.
Thanks, Matt.
My pleasure. Hopefully I rocked that intro. I think I did, try to hype
You're
you up.
perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're gonna dive right into it. I
Okay.
know that inspiration's a value that's important to you. So
Very much so.
can you explain first of all why it's so important to you and what that means to you?
Yeah. So inspiration, one of the values of my foundation, a value that has been very important to me before the foundation was even formed. Um, it plays a big role in moving me forward. And I find that inspiration gives purpose and excitement to what I do and what I'm doing every day. And I have to say, since you asked me to be on this podcast, Matthew, I've given a lot of thought to this word and kind of took a deep dive into what it really means to me. And I think it's important to understand just how vital it is to be inspired as well as inspire other people. Um, and I think it's because I see what value it provides me every day and keeping me mentally and physically strong and moving forward. Um, Inspiration helps to motivate me, and they are very similar words. In fact, if you look them up, they're kind of like, what's that word?
I prefer the word inspiration too, because I find like motivation's a feeling that kind of waxes and wanes. Like it's kind
Yes.
of like a feeling I'm motivated or I'm not motivated. I find it's like a
Yes.
feeling, whereas inspiration's something that like kind of keeps burning. That's in there.
That's a good way to say it. And the way I've decided I want to explain it is, to me anyways, inspiration sparks an emotion and and through your senses. So whether it's something that you see, whether it's a person doing something or something in nature, or a feeling, something that sparks a feeling within you, and that feeling therefore initiates the desire to act on it, act on that interest that I want to pursue. So, for example, you hear somebody's speech and motivational speech, and that's like you feel an emotion, and it makes you want to like move forward and do something about it. That's why inspiration is important to me, because that's what I rely on to keep me moving forward and keep me going every day.
Can you provide us some examples of people or moments where you felt inspired by others?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's like people that inspire me, and then there's other things, such as nature. Like for me, nature is such an inspirational, like I draw inspiration from nature. For example, I went for a walk the other day, and this doesn't really have anything to do with a physical feat, but it's just another way to describe to me why inspiration is important in the work that I do. Walking in the forest the other day, there was a tree that had fallen down, and you could see like the fresh inside of the tree. And there was this like rich chocolate brown that like bled into this deep copper, that bled into this vibrant copper, into this like golden blonde. And this might sound funny to you, but that to me, it was like, what a beautiful hair color that would make. And I'm a hairstylist and
Yeah,
a
I
hair
know that. Yeah,
colorist
yeah, I
for
love it.
anyone listening. And it made me think like I could recreate that in somebody's hair. And that inspired my work. It sparked creativity. It inspired me to want to create something, from nature.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as well as not just that tree, but trees in general. This might sound crazy to some people. They stand there all year long and endure our Canadian winters. And every spring they come back and turn green.
I'm
And
inspired by it. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, and that, like, I think about that often, like how resilient they are. I'm inspired by their resilience, and not just trees, but nature in general.
I like that answer. I'll be honest, it's not the direction I thought you were going to go, but I love it. I'll just say quickly, anecdotally, I have a sunflower in my garden, just one, and I was
Okay,
like crushed when I saw it like dead.
die.
Like,
Yeah,
but then like 3 days later, a new one sprouted up, like unplanted. I was like, whoa, it kind of
yeah.
blew my mind.
Isn't that cool? Like it's
Yeah.
just resilient, and I think that we can like draw from that and be inspired by that. Like the resilience of those sunflowers, they didn't get what they needed, so they died, but then another one came back in its place. Like I just think that's really cool.
It is
So
very cool.
so in a way that just kind of scratches the surface of like one way that you can um draw from nature or just be inspired in general. It doesn't have to mean, oh, I'm inspired by this person, now I'm going to go do this incredible feat. And like that's usually the first thing that I think of, and it really is. And I left that to the end because there's probably going to be more conversation about this, but um there's a lot of people that inspire me as well. And it's maybe not always the people that you'd think. It's not like, yes, Ross Edgley, this incredible human who does these crazy feats with 100-pound logs and swims for 50 plus hours in Loch Ness, like that kind of stuff inspires me for sure. But I'll go back to, I'll start with, well, my husband, for example. When I met Zach, he prioritized his workouts. It didn't matter what was going on that day. He made sure he made time for it, and that was his personal development time for himself. And at the time when I met him, which would be almost 17 years ago now, um, like I wasn't into fitness the way I am now, and he inspired me. I was like, wow, he's so dedicated to his fitness, and I saw what it did for him. It made him a better person. It made him happier, to better to be around, more focused. Um, and therefore he was there for me in a better way because he had taken care of himself first. And that might sound selfish to some, but I think that's a really important thing, is you take care of yourself. And so his dedication to his fitness and his, not just his physical health, but his mental health. And I've learned that sticking to your fitness program or whatever it is isn't just about physical health. It's about your mental health too. And that's something that I wanted to be like. I wanted to be like that, and be fit and strong physically and mentally.
Well, you
So
are. You definitely are.
thank you. Thank you. Mission accomplished, I guess.
Yeah,
Eh?
I love
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
yeah, it's huge. I'm gonna
Yeah.
steer direction in the conversation a bit of a different direction.
Sure.
I'll bring it back to you, but thank you for sharing that. You're right. Like it doesn't have to be these big Ross Edgleys who inspire you. I love that you have nature or just the people who you surround yourself with. So that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So I think for me, what comes to mind is a quote from Viktor Frankl. I draw from this quote a lot.
Okay.
And Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychologist who survived, the camps. He was in a very dark place, and his sense of purpose kind of pulled him out. Like he wanted to write this book, which is all about giving your suffering purpose. That kind of allowed him to stick through and survive those camps and rebuild his life. Anyways, the quote is, "What is to give light must endure burning." So it's like if you've
Mhm.
got a log burning, it's disappearing or it's kind of hurting as it's giving light. So I think like sometimes we think inspiration, like you have to do these superhuman feats, like you gave the example of Ross Edgley. But for you, what inspires me a lot, is your dark period, not
Mhm.
just your swim across Lake Ontario, but, you receiving that liver transplant, being on that really dark sort of place, but
Mhm.
then recovering and bouncing out of that, just like my sunflower.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
can you bring us through that sort of, like, we're really summing it up, but just in a few minutes, can you bring us through that transformation? Like, what happened to help you pull out of that?
Pull out of the dark time that I was in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will try to sum it up
Yeah,
in a
it's
few
tough. Yeah,
minutes.
it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, so waiting for a liver transplant is very difficult. It's like if you don't get one in time, you're likely to die. And a lot of people do die while they're waiting. And that was my reality for a number of years throughout most of my
Scary.
20s. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to actually live. So I was depressed. I was sad. I felt, I wasn't able to contribute in any way. I couldn't work. Everybody had to do things for me. I was sick. I didn't feel good all the time. So after having my transplant, like literally the next day, there was like a huge shift. Like there was all of a sudden, you go from like, am I going to live to, wow, like I got a transplant and now my life it was going like this and then it goes like this, like the very next day, or at least that's, I hoped and thought that that's the way my life is going to go. But I can't just like let it happen. I have to work at it, like I have to work at changing my mental state. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm not sick anymore. Um, and what helped me get out of that was I was proposed with a suggestion, I guess I could say. I was waiting to leave the hospital, recovering in my bed at the hospital, and this volunteer handed me a brochure, and it was all about the World Transplant Games. It's a sporting competition for transplant recipients, and they can compete on a world stage and celebrate life doing things that they love, like swimming, running, track and field. And it was the perfect moment for him to present this to me because I was sort of vulnerable. It was like I could go this way and like be the victim forever. Like I've had a transplant and life's going to be hard, or I've had a transplant and I have the opportunity to get my life back. And I chose that. And when he said to me, "Hey, did you know about the transplant games?" I looked through it and I saw swimming was a sport, and it sparked some inspiration to train and to get better. And right then and there, this visual came into my mind. I was standing on the podium, I was strong and I was healthy and I was happy. And I 2 months after my transplant, I got back to the gym and I started swimming and training for the World Transplant Games.
I love that. That's
And
awesome.
the swimming brought me out of a dark place. And it took time. It wasn't like, oh, immediately I'm like happy and fit. First day going back to the pool, I could barely swim 25 meters. It was exhausting. And I thought, I don't know how I used to do this as a kid. Like, this is hard work. But I persevered and I trained and I started swimming with the team and I saw them competing and I thought I can do this too. And I made it to the World Transplant Games in 2017. And I again was inspired by the girl that beat me in the two events I competed in. She won gold and I saw how great a swimmer she was. And I thank her for inspiring me again because after those games, I stepped up my training because I saw what was capable, like what I was capable of or what was possible. And I became the fastest female transplant swimmer at the World Transplant Games in 2019 and broke 5 world records in my age group.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Inspiration.
Yeah, totally. It's inspirational. Definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. Wow. Processing that one. It's just incredible just to hear about it. For me, it was Chris Cacciati, my friend, who just sent me this article about you. Like, but
Oh,
I was like, oh, that's awesome. It was about your Lake Ontario swim,
oh, okay.
It
Yeah.
did inspire me, right before he
Yeah.
gave it to me to inspire me before my swim across Lake Wanapitang. So I definitely
Yeah.
drew strength from your swim to like fuel my own.
That's cool. I like that.
For sure. We don't have time to talk about like your whole Lake Ontario swim, but the one moment
No.
I want to hear about
Yes.
is the moment when you're finishing your swim. Like I know because you've shared this with me, but
Mhm.
like the moment you described kind of like a trip out to space, where you kind of blew
Yeah.
your own mind. Can you bring us through just the finish of your 51-kilometer Lake Ontario swim? It was like, what was the time on that? It was 16 hours? 16 hours
I
something?
wish it was
I
18.
wish, whatever. 18, still incredible.
18
Yeah.
and a half, 18 hours, 36 minutes.
That's still incredible. Like this.
Yeah, it
So,
was,
anyways, just bring us to the end of that, please.
yeah. So, I'll start 5 kilometers out from the finish where I know it's within reach. I know I'm going to do it. I know it's happening. It's just a matter of putting in that time. And for me, a 5K is about an hour and a half. And I'm like, okay, I got an hour and a half to go. Like that's nothing compared to what I've been doing like the last day and a half. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And as I draw closer and closer, my swim master, John Scott, he says to me like, and I can actually see the crowd. I can see people waiting at the wall. It's not a shore, it's a wall with a ladder you have to climb up. And he says like, just take this in, like this is a big moment. And when he I'm so glad he allowed me that minute to just stop and look and see all these people that were waiting for me at the finish, that knew what I was doing the past 18 and a half hours, grinding it out in the lake, getting caught in a current and swimming in the same spot for a few hours. And as I drew even closer and I could hear the crowd, I was crying, and like I just couldn't even imagine. I, it was just, it was so overwhelming to think that the sick me 6 years prior, that was literally on my deathbed, I would never ever have imagined being in that spot at that time only 6 years later. And that's why I describe it as like I took this trip around the universe, and it's like I landed back on Earth, because it's like I had gone somewhere like unfathomable and then came back to reality. And coming back to reality was like finishing, and it was like, wow, that actually just happened.
So
Like
can you
did
go into
that.
more, or you still don't understand? Like when you say that trip around the universe, can we delve into that just a little bit more? Like, was it just like not you couldn't think, or was it just a feeling, or what was going on? Like,
It was like I had just done this thing that I wasn't even sure that I was like, I believed in myself and I told myself I was going to do it, but I had never done it before. Just like being in space, it was like I've never done that, but it was just so unimaginable. It was so big, it was so hard, and it was so um yeah, like it was almost unbelievable that I did it. Like
it is
I
unbelievable.
yeah, and I still think that when I look back and watch my video about the swim, I'm like, I can't believe that was me. I can't believe I did that. And that's really the best way that I can describe it, because it's like something that I've never done before. It's almost undescribable. And I think that's why I say it that way.
I
It
love it.
it was just so much bigger than a like a swim. Like it didn't feel like a big swim. It felt like an emotional, spiritual journey. And it wasn't just the 18 hours, 36 minutes. It was the training and everything leading into it that was just, it was amazing that I did that to like I amazed myself. And I know that might sound funny, but
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I think everybody needs, doesn't have to be to that degree, but I think everybody needs an experience like that. Like it doesn't have to be big, but even if you run your first 5K, like some people that's overwhelming. Like for you
yeah.
back when you were receiving your liver, probably running a 5K was probably beyond what you thought,
Oh
when you were
yeah.
recovering. But like when you do something you don't think you can do, then you have
Yeah.
some very concrete counter thoughts to the bullshit that's in your head,
Yeah.
right? When you're like those dark thoughts are spinning, like, I'll never do this, I'll never do that. Well, then you realize you have some evidence that it's not true,
It's
right?
not
Like,
true.
yeah,
Yeah. And if you just persevere one day at a time, one moment at a time, you can find your way through the hardest things in life. Things that you think, oh, I could never do that. But it's amazing what strength comes when you're in that time when you feel like you have no other choice. When you feel like you have no other choice other than, I have to be strong and I'm going to find a way through this, just one stroke at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's
Mhm.
powerful. Your story is incredibly powerful. I have zero doubt that you've inspired many people who are in the position that you were. You know, I hope they've picked up the newspaper article or listened to one of your podcasts or this video here,
Thanks,
and
Matt.
you inspire them to make, you know, their own journey, but a similar journey to what you did, to have this holistic sort of healing from this really tough place.
Yeah, and it's important to me to inspire people because I've been inspired and I know what it, like I said, I know what it does for me. And to be able to inspire someone else to start something new or try something new or get out of their comfort zone, it makes me feel like I've done my job because I think that having been through what I've been through, I'm in a position where I can help people that have been or are where I have been.
Yeah, because it's coming from experience, right? It's coming from lived
Yeah,
experience.
lived experience. And all I have to do is talk about it. I don't have to like make anything up or, it's just telling my story. So,
We're going to start wrapping up a little bit. We still got
mhm.
about like between 5 and 10 minutes, I think.
Okay.
But I'm just going to open mic, like whatever's on your heart or mind. You know, maybe someone's listening, like people are listening or watching. What would you say to someone who was in your position? Or like, you don't have to answer that question. Whatever's on your heart and mind, just open mic, go for it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's a very, I say this a lot when people say, like, what would you tell people? Because I think this has been told to me and it's gone a long way for me. I think it's a very human like thing to pick up traits from other people that you spend time around. In fact, there's some quote or thing or saying where it's like you become like the five people that you spend the most time with. And I think that couldn't be more true. I often think about the people that I spend time with the most. It's often my husband, my mom and dad, my family, and then the people that I swim with because I spend a lot of time with them. And of course my clients, but I see them not as often. Um, and I think it's important for us, to surround ourselves with positivity, or at least the kind of energy that we want to emulate. Because it's so easy to be around somebody that maybe doesn't believe in themselves or doesn't have a positive outlook on life or always looks to the negative. They're not maybe even aware that they're not grateful for the small things. And before you know it, you start saying things that they would say or think the way they would think. And like I said, the best thing that somebody ever said to me was, Jill, like, I just want you to surround yourself with good people. And since I've been told that, it's very present in my mind. And I always, I don't want to say judge, but I do like to assess often, who am I spending my time with and who am I listening to? It's not also time, but like, what podcasts are you listening to? What books are you reading? What information are you letting get in there?
I call that the mental diet.
The mental diet. I like
Yeah, it's
that.
like you put food in your body, right? So it's like if you're
Yeah.
putting junk food in, you are what you eat, right? But like
Yes.
also like mentally what you're consuming, you start thinking those things, right?
Yeah.
So
And you start saying it too.
yeah, I call
And
that the mental diet. Like what you're, it's okay to have a bit of mental junk food every once in a while, you know, but if you're just having mental junk food, you know, it's not going to be good for you.
it's not going to feel good.
No.
No, no.
I
And
like
that's
to,
what,
oh, sorry,
sorry.
go for it.
I was just going to finish it by saying, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why inspiration is important to me because I draw from the people that I'm around to be inspired and hopefully inspire those people too. So I think you're just creating like this, like positivity bubble around you that just like you're just lifted everywhere you go because you're your mental diet is healthy.
Yeah, inspiration, it really is that. Like you could choose. I thought of this too. I've been thinking about it a lot, but it's like when you see someone do something amazing, you could be jealous or you could be inspired. And if you're jealous, you're kind of like
Yeah,
pulling yourself down. You could be indifferent, but then it doesn't do anything for you. But
yeah,
if you're inspired, like you just look at other people do amazing things and you just, it feeds you, right? It just,
yeah,
and then when you have like two people like that together or three, or you have a group, then everybody's just kind of pulling everybody up.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and jealousy is like the way I've always looked at it is like you want what they have, like you want to take away what they have so that it's yours. Where why not believe in yourself? And I can do that too. I can do that too, and then maybe I'll inspire the person beside me, and then we'll all become
Exactly. Yeah.
awesome.
It's like it's the better choice, right?
Yeah,
It's sometimes not a conscious choice, but it's worth developing that.
yeah.
I'm gonna wrap up. I kind of defined my life purpose as I'm a light. And I realize there's two ways, one's to be the candle that's sending out the inspiration. And I think the better way I've learned is to be the mirror. So I always finish by reflecting people's light right back at them. So I like giving three
Cool.
compliments. So number one is you're inspirational. That's why I had you on here, right? So you definitely live the value that is so important to you. You've inspired me, and I have zero doubt you've inspired many others, even if you haven't heard from them. Sometimes you have no idea the impact you have on people unless they take the time to thank you. And even those who aren't taking the time to do that, you're still impacting them. Number two would be supportive. I think when I've gone from my mantle and swim, you put me in contact with like half my team, So
Yeah,
you put me in contact with Christine, Dan, Craig, John helped me out, So
yeah.
so many people. So not only do you do incredible things, you support other people, you definitely lift them up in that direction concretely. And the last compliment I'll give you is determination, determined, not just your physical grit on getting across Lake Ontario, but also your determination to growing your Move for Life Foundation, um, your recovery journey. Just incredibly determined person, which is awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. This is awfully kind of you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
you also were the perfect. I wanted to share that because your mind blowing experience at the end when you touched the wall. That's
Yeah.
that's the definition of like this channel, like amaze yourself. I hope everybody gets to live a similar experience to that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Go for it, people.
Go for it,
Yeah.
people.
Get after those dreams.
Yeah, hopefully Jill inspired you as much as she did me. Thank you so much.
Bye.